Hello, everybody. How is it going today? My name is Ben Burnside, and welcome to the Ben Burnside Show. This is a show I have not been doing for a while now, so I'm glad to be back. Um, for some cheap plugs, just to start it off and get it out of the way, I have a few episodes I've done already on Podbean.com in a podcast format. There's 5 episodes. Just look up the Ben Burnside Show on Podbean, and you'll see the first 5 talk shows I've ever done just this year. Uh, all are about an hour long or over that, so trust me, you'll enjoy the good stuff on there. Um, and also, another cheap plug, you can go on my website, which is the benburnsideblog.com. Basically, I talk about whatever is on my mind on there. Lately, it's been review shows of different TV shows, and I'm a pro wrestling fan, so some pro wrestling shows. So hopefully you enjoy all that stuff on there. Right now, I'm reviewing The Sopranos. As of right now, one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. It's already in the top 5. I don't know. I don't know how many. How many? I don't know how big it's going to be. It very well could be number one. Right now, I'm on episode 4 of season 4, so it should be. I'm looking forward to how it ends. So I don't see. I don't see it getting. I just see it getting better the whole time. That's pretty much how I take it. But let's start the show. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about some spoilers for movies that I've seen, some reviews. Uh, Particularly, the first movie I want to talk about is what I saw last night, and that was Hobbs and Shaw from the Fast and the Furious franchise. Dwayne Johnson making his first appearance as the leading man in the Fast and the Furious franchise. People can make the argument if he was the leading man for um, in the previous movies because he's such a big star now. Biggest star in Hollywood. Uh, yeah, biggest star in Hollywood, according to Forbes at least. So you, it's amazing. It's amazing where he's come from the world of wrestling to where he's at now. It's just incredible. Um, he really made it. He made it his life's work to be the biggest star he can be, and he's the biggest star, at least uh, in Hollywood right now. I mean, if that's not the biggest star he can be, then that's a scary dude, man. We've already talked about him becoming president as early as 2 years ago. So um, who knows? He could be. He could lead the universe potentially. So stay tuned, I guess. Um, but this movie was really good. It was a lot of fun. I didn't have a lot of expectations going in, so I really thought the movie uh, did its job in terms of just being entertaining and making sure that casual movie fans have a good time. Jason Statham was pretty good. It was really Dwayne's movie, though. Dwayne came up with the whole franchise. It was kind of his baby. It seemed like throughout the whole making of this movie. So I, wow, very impressive, very impressive. Now I'm going to get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, skip ahead until I get to the news portion of the show. Looking into this movie, I thought it was really good. It was just a really entertaining movie. I didn't really, uh, I didn't really take it too serious. How can you take it too serious? It's Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson uh, blowing shit up and beating up everybody else in the movie, basically. Idris Elba was great in it. That guy screams movie star too, especially for these days. I wouldn't mind seeing him as James Bond because the new James Bond hasn't been announced yet, and everybody's been talking about Idris Elba. Uh, I don't know how old Idris Elba is. Alexa, how old is Idris Elba? All right, so he just turned 47. He could be James Bond for a couple movies. be like the Black Roger Moore or something like that. Just have him be James Bond. I think that'd be pretty cool. So just a thought. But there's not a whole lot to say about this movie that I really want to digest into. It's not meant to be digested. It's an entertaining movie, and I really enjoyed it. I think you know I saw I saw Roman Reigns was in the movie. He didn't have any lines. That was a pretty smart move. But I think he carries a presence in the movie. Not like The Rock, but he carries a presence in the movie. I like Jason Statham in the movie. I thought he was right there with Dwayne Johnson. But Dwayne Johnson is such a star. He just comes off as such a star, and that might not mean as much today. Like maybe in the 1950s and the 1960s, that meant a lot more back then. But now it doesn't really matter as much. It's more about quality and acting performances that people focus on. I think people see the stuff that was viewed as great in the 50s and 60s. I think they see it now more as bullshit. And I just don't think that's true. I think if I think if anything, that stuff in the 50s and 60s, that's the cherry on top for making a great star, for elevating yourself into becoming the next star. Um, that's just my opinion. But being a fan of wrestling for almost 20 years, I I have a feeling of what it takes to be a star in some aspects, and I think Dwayne Johnson has this element that other people in Hollywood just don't have, that he takes advantage of in his movies, and I think that plays a role into why he's the highest paying actor in all of Hollywood today. It's really impressive. Um, you know, I think what else is there to say? There's nothing really else to say about the movie. The cameos were okay. They were kind of spoiled by the Instagram posts that Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart put on their Instagram. They spoiled the damn cameos of the movie, like the weekend of the movie, the release of the movie. So it was still cool to see Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart. And Kevin Hart particularly was pretty funny in the movie. They both had their moments, but Kevin Hart was more funny. But I just it would have been cooler if I didn't know that they were in the movie before. If I didn't know that, would have been cool. I also saw it in a theater where there was only like three other people, so I think that hurt the quality of the movie. It still was awesome. It still felt like a blockbuster, but I wish I would have seen that movie with an audience. So maybe I'll take that into consideration next time before before seeing a movie like this. Um, you have to see it the first week, so it is what it is. But I still enjoyed myself. Um, Besides that, I thought the girl who played Jason Statham's sister was okay. Thought she was good. Everyone played their roles kind of well in a fun way, as I get an email. But yeah, not really much to say. Um, it's pretty much what you expect from an action movie, and that's what Dwayne Johnson does it that way, and I think that's pretty much it. Um, yeah, just watch it. Watch it. You'll have a good time, man. You'll have a fun time. I wish it wasn't super long, but it didn't feel like the movie dragged or anything, like maybe besides two parts. But when I saw that it was 2 hours and 17 minutes long, I was like, does this have to be 2 hours and 17 minutes long? That's kind of stupid. It's just, put it down to like 2 hours and 5 minutes or something like that. Maybe you should go for that. But it is what it is. There was a new villain that was teased for, I guess, a sequel for this movie. And this movie could have a sequel down the road, especially if the next Fast and Furious movie makes bank, which I'm sure it will. I'm sure a sequel is coming. This movie made money too, so uh, good for Dwayne. I think this movie, I also thought it made a weird reference into Deckard Shaw's brother, Owen, who was in the Fast and the Furious franchise before any of the Shaw siblings. In fact, he created probably the concept of the Shaws. They said he was dead, or the Deckard said that Deckard said to Elba's character that you had me kill my brother. You had me kill my brother. You were responsible for that at the end of the movie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Shaw was in the last movie. He was in the last Fast. So I don't know what to say about that. But hopefully, hopefully that does not um, become. Hopefully he's not dead. Hopefully he means like a brother like in the army. Like it's not really his brother, but soul wise it's his brother. You know, camaraderie wise it's his brother. Um, so yeah, and I researched into that a little more, and it said that this movie might have taken place in the future, like in 2022. So, you know, his brother could be dead. Who knows? So, it'll be interesting. But besides that, this movie is great. I think people should go see it. Now that it's out, though, you can wait till it comes out in on video. You know, there's no rush to see it in the theater. No one's going to be in the theater. You know, don't go see it if you're gonna go just with a friend and you're the only two in the theater, you know, unless you're with a girl. I don't know, unless that's your plan. But yeah, go wait till it comes out on video. All right, next movie I want to talk about is what I saw last Friday, and it was the new DC movie, The Joker, the new standalone DC movie, first of its kind. I think maybe in comic book history, uh, comic book movie history, I should say, where the movie really made it a point to where this was a standalone movie that wasn't affiliated with any movie cinematic universe or movie franchise. This was a standalone movie that stood by itself. It had its own story to tell, kind of like an indie movie, and this was a movie that was specifically digging in for an Oscar. You know, that they really were driving that point home. I think the other movies do too, but this one, you know, it really upped the quality to where it's like an awards movie. You know what I mean? So I saw this movie, and unlike Fast and Furious, this movie is completely different. I have I have quite a bit. There, I want to digest into this movie a lot more than in Fast and the Furious because there's a lot to talk about in terms of what what the Joker um, what the Joker brought to me as I was watching it. First off, I think Joaquin Phoenix. The movie was really it wasn't an ensemble movie at all. It was really just Joaquin Phoenix, and I think he I think he really made it to where it was the movie was about him, you know, and it really was centered around his character with Arthur Fleck, and boy, he commanded. If this movie was a ship, he did all. He was he was responsible for all the jobs in the ship. He was the one carrying the ship. This movie was specifically based on his performance in terms of how good the movie will be, and man, he delivered. Um, I haven't seen many Joaquin Phoenix movies, so this isn't really a huge thing to say. But this is definitely the best thing I've ever seen him do. Way better than how he did Johnny Cash, and he was good as Johnny Cash. But this is just a different level. This is just insane. So I think I think the Joker, man, a lot to digest. A lot to digest. This movie is pretty good. I think, if anything, uh, hmm, first thing I want to say, just to get into it, is my favorite scene in the whole movie was when Robert De Niro and Joaquin Phoenix were were jaw jacking at each other basically for the whole, for basically Joaquin confessing, and this is a spoilers, so I'll let you know right now, and I'll make this very clear. This is another spoiler review. Um, I really can't emphasize that enough. If you don't want to listen to this, then skip ahead to the news segment of the show. So, want to make that clear. Anyway, I thought Joaquin Phoenix and Robert De Niro, what they did in that scene where Joaquin Phoenix was on De Niro's show. Let me get the character's name real quick here. It is no Murray Franklin. So when he was on Murray's show, that was the best scene in the movie. I really thought that was the scene where I was like, "Yep, that's it. I want to see that." So, man, those are some heavyweight actors giving some heavyweight dialogue and just throwing haymakers at each other. Joaquin Phoenix basically confessed on Murray's show that he killed three men, that he killed uh, three men while defending himself at first uh, on a subway train when the three men were beating on him. He killed the first two, but then he stalked down the second who was already shot and killed him. So that wasn't self-defense. And after that, that was a big turning point for Joaquin Phoenix's character. It wasn't really the birth of the Joker, but I thought Joaquin Phoenix really that was a crucial scene. It was probably the weirdest scene after that because he ran into a abandoned bathroom in the city from running away from that crime scene, and he was dancing and doing like a Tai Chi slash dancing thing to where he was calming his nerves, and it was like a it was like a moment where he really accepted himself, where he really just told himself, I think, to let go, let go of his of his fear of who he is. Um, and I didn't get one part of the movie where he was at the mental hospital and he stole some hospital documents, or I guess some adoption papers from the person that holds all the documents in the building. And I didn't get the twist there. I didn't catch all of that. That's one thing I'll criticize about this movie. It was one of those movies where I don't like it. It's you have to really kind of really pay attention with some of the plot details. And if you don't, then you're shit out of luck. You can't rewind it or nothing. You're in the theater, so you gotta just hope you could catch it later. I kind of did, but not fully. So I'm trying to I'm trying to ask someone online what the deal is, but I haven't got my answer yet. I don't want to give away spoilers because the movie just came out. So, but that was the turning point basically of Joaquin or Arthur, I should say. That's the character's name. Arthur killing his mom at the hospital who was recovering from an episode at her house, and it really was that was a chilling scene. This movie was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable the whole way through from point A when he was trying to force himself to smile in the mirror to point B where he killed the doctor at the end and very end of the movie clearly while he was in Arkham Asylum. So it was just man, this movie man, it was messed up. I probably will watch it. I could watch it again if I wanted to. I'm not going to, just for money reasons. But I think, man, this movie is. It's not a fun movie. It's not a fun comic book movie. It's not. There isn't as many enlightening or uplifting moments as other dark movies are. in general. This is just a heavy movie, period. I think, not period, but like mostly heavy, and I, it'll be interesting to see what will happen the second week of the box office. That's what I'm really wondering, because this movie has broken records for October for an October movie opening. It had something like 95 million at the box office, so it beat Venom for last year for the opening October box office. Another comic book movie, but very very different from the Joker, and and I don't know what fans were expecting. Uh, I wonder how much they really knew about what this kind of movie is, what this movie is going to be, because I think people think that it's going to be fun and it's going to be a blockbuster, and they have reason to think that. It's the Joker. He's fun. He's an entertaining character throughout movies, comic books, TV shows. Why wouldn't it? Why would it be different here? Because it is. It just is. That the creators wanted it to be that way. So I don't know. It will be really interesting to see how fans expect um, expect to. Uh, it really will be interesting to see what the expectations of fans are for this overall. And it also, I think, is going to tell me a more general question: how informed exactly are fans of movies these days? Are they a lot smarter than I think, or are they not as informed as I suspected? Because there have been signs with box office, particularly with Marvel, I'll say, but with other movies as well, um, that the the general movie going audience is getting a lot smarter, a lot more educated into what movies can be. They are getting aware that movies in general are becoming more sophisticated. And they're picking up on that. But this will be the ultimate test for me. Week number 2 of the Joker. How how intense, and number 3. Week number 2 and 3, how much of a return, how much of a cut will the box office be from week 1 to week 2 and 3? Because with that being said, it will mean that people want to see the Joker. It will be more of a message to me that people like this movie, they support this movie, and they weren't caught off guard in week 1 of what kind of movie this is. Um, and they'll also tell us if they want more of this movie, um, with the returns of week 2 and 3. I think they're already talking, obviously, because Joaquin Phoenix has said it in an interview about what more can they do with this storyline if they want to keep going with it. Because at first they said, no, we just want a one and done, like a normal movie. We don't want to make a franchise like every other comic book movie. We just want a single movie. And that's cool, but now there's a lot of money involved. And money is pushing this idea for a franchise now. So what will that mean going forward? Particularly for a guy like Joaquin Phoenix, who is very much into um, not being in franchises and not being the money guy and not being the guy who represents the big blockbusters and goes to talk shows and all this stuff. I think he sees that as a little bit BS. Like whatever. I think he's a lot more interested in the craft of acting and filmmaking. And bottom line, this is a really good film. And clearly that's his opinion when you listen to his interviews. Uh, so I think I think it will be interesting, considering that he's had talks with the director of this movie, Todd Phillips, boy, he's going to be a star after this. But director Todd Phillips of where they can go from here and what they can keep doing with this story. And personally, I want to see a story continue with this. I want to see a new story of an adult Batman getting revenge for what the Joker inadvertently caused, indirectly caused by having a follower of his, a person who was inspired by his message, to Arthur's message to the public, and because of that, the follower killed Bruce Wayne's parents, and uh, and that's where Batman will come to surface. But this Joker, Arthur Fleck, will be 70 years old. To me, that doesn't matter. I wonder how old Jack Nicholson was when he was the Joker. Let me see. Alexa, how old was Jack Nicholson? Jeez. Come on, Jack, getting more movies. But anyway, Jack, so Jack Nicholson, Batman was 30 years ago, right? At this point. Yeah, 30 years ago. So he was 52. Okay. A little bit of an age difference. Alexa, how old is Joaquin Phoenix? Well, if they do this movie in like 5 years, Joaquin will be 49, and supposedly there'll be an adult Bruce Wayne. They could do a small movie with Arthur Fleck and the Joker. Why not? This Arthur Fleck, though, it will be a very different Joker. I don't see them following any comic book storylines unless they do specific scenes, like how they did in this movie with the talk with him killing Murray Franklin. That's a copy of The Dark Knight Returns. But I didn't sense that that was their direct plan to have them to have him to copy what happened in The Dark Knight Returns. That just was a good addition, good part of the storyline, and they went with it. And I agree with that part. That was my favorite part of the movie when he killed the talk show host because of how real and intense it was. It was just, man, it really was intense. It was it highly exaggerated what society what is this movie, and particularly with this scene, like highly. But we have seen, I think, pretty awkward moments on network television of just weird people on either talk shows or news shows, or people who are being interviewed for the news. There's weird people, but this is an exaggeration times like a million. But I think they really grabbed something out of that, and they got something that was that really was money, and I enjoyed it. Overall, this movie was great. Uh, I thought the Zazie Beats part of the story. Her name is Sophie in the movie, Sophie Dumont. I thought that part of the movie, where it was pretty much a lot of it was an illusion with, well, all of it was an illusion with her relationship with Arthur, except for probably the hotel and when Arthur went into her house, without permission. So, except for those two instances, everything else was an illusion. That part was sad with Arthur. You get the perspective of the character in this movie, but I couldn't, and I know that he's a lunatic, but I couldn't help but feel sad for him. I really couldn't help feel bad for him with that movie, with that part of the movie, because you know it makes perfect sense. She's a sane woman, and she's a very attractive lady. Why would she go with a lunatic who lives with his mom? Like, who, it doesn't make sense. And it seems like she's going through a bad time right now, but still. And so that part sucked, where when we found out that wasn't real. Um, and also the part with his mother, and where we also thought Thomas Wayne was his father. That wasn't fun either. That was a load of crap. Thomas Wayne looked like a dick in the middle of the movie when we thought he was his father, but he really wasn't. He was just more offended that Arthur put his hands on his son and came to his home. You know, that makes sense, his reaction, and why he'd be so smug toward him. I would be too. Who wouldn't be? And yeah, that's how I took it. It's just it is a tragedy. I heard someone say that this movie is a tragedy. That's what it is. It's a tragedy about a man's life, and he was broken from the beginning of the movie, and he just got more and more broken, and it just boy, it was rough. It was rough to watch, but it definitely brings something new to the comic book genre, and it will bring something new going forward. I think from how much money this movie made. But then again, we'll see how much uh, it brought this change from weeks 2 and 3 from the follow up of the first weekend of this movie. Because this is new. The general movie going audience is not used to this. But then again, like I said before, we're going to find out how educated the general movie going audience really is. And that is something I want to see and want to know. Anything else I'm missing? No, not really. Uh, there was the expectations of this movie were super high for me going in because of the early reviews of this movie. It won the biggest awards in a number of film festivals, including the Venice Film Festival, which arguably is the biggest film festival out there, besides maybe like Toronto International and Sundance. But so I wish I wouldn't have heard those reviews that much, and that was unfortunately my big takeaway from leaving the theater. It's like, damn, I wish I didn't know wish I didn't know that. But after that, this movie, especially after hearing reviews, it reminded me just how great this movie is, and it's definitely my favorite uh, comic book movie of the year. It's only my second favorite movie. My first favorite though is Booksmart. You should check that movie out. That movie's awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much my review of the Joker. Go see it. Go see it right now. Doesn't matter how big doesn't matter when. Matter how many people are in it. Go see it now. Go see it now. All right, let's get into the news. I should call this segment phone news because basically what I do is I just go off my phone and I see I go to my Google and I basically look at references or the top news stories that come off my Google phone and I reflect off them. I read them and I reflect off them to see. I give my reaction to the latest news stories that Google pops up for me. And Google references the news stories to what I look up on my own computer. So this should be pretty interesting. Let's see. The first one is a video of The Sopranos. So just for the sake of not being spoiled, since I'm watching the show, I'm going to skip that. Comicbookmovie.com, The Flash teams up with two Supermen in Crisis on Infinite Earths. BTS photo. Take a look. I like comicbookmovie.com. It's pretty good. Just hours after Erica Durance and Bitsy Tulloch shared a selfie together in a meeting of two Lois Lanes. Saw that photo. I never knew who the new Lois Lane was. I didn't even know what she looks like because I stopped following all these new DC shows because there's so many of them, and it's just like, fuck, I can't, it unmotivated me to watch them. So next up, we got okay. Just hours after Erica Durance and Bitsy Tulloch shared a selfie together in a meeting of two Lois Lanes, the Flash star Grant Gustin is featured in an image that is making the rounds on social media, where he is standing between two Supermen, Tyler Hoechlin and Brandon Routh, with a huge smile on his face. It is not immediately clear where the photo came from, but it seems likely to be the same person who earlier posted a photo of Gustin's Flash standing alongside Cress Williams' Black Lightning. And yeah, I didn't see that picture, but I see both of them. Grant Gustin's the one who's smiling in the photo. The shots are taken on board the Wave Rider, suggesting that they are likely from an episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, although aside from Ralph, who plays Ray Palmer on that series, no members of the Legends cast actually appear in the shots. You can check them out below. Let's check them out. I've seen the one with Flash already, but I'm going to check it out again. How I feel about these new, about all these characters coming back, the Brendan Routh Superman, the Clark Kent Tom Welling Superman, the Smallville Lois Lane, the Smallville Lex Luthor's not coming back, which, you know, they didn't give him a reason to come back, if you read up on that story. But wow, the two Supermen, the original Superman costume and the Kingdom Come Superman costume, which is where Brendan Routh is in, with Grant Gustin in the middle. Yep. There's Black Lightning with the Flash. Is Black Lightning, is that Static Shock as an adult? Is that who he is? Because I don't know who that is. I can't, yeah, I don't know. That's weird. That's weird. The crossovers have begun. This is interesting. You could see that on Riley Cole, Riley, and Cole, Cole. You could see it on his Twitter page. You'll have to scroll down and all that. But photos are cool. Photos are cool. You know, Crisis on Infinite Earths has loomed over the Arrowverse for years. The series premiere of The Flash featured an allusion to the hero disappearing amid red skies in the year 2024. During the original comics event, red skies were a sign of doom to come to a world during the crisis. At the end of last season, a couple of things happened. The Monitor, played by LaMonica Garrett, who had appeared in Elseworlds, reappeared and revealed that Oliver Queen was destined to die in the crisis, and the future newspaper at Star Labs rolled back the expected date of Crisis from 2024 to 2019. Dun dun dun. In the comics, Crisis on Infinite Earth centered on a battle between the combined superheroes, and even some villains, of the DC multiverse to and an immortal cosmic threat known as the Anti-Monitor. Like the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor will be played by LaMonica Garrett in the Arrowverse. As the Anti-Monitor destroys realities, he replaces their positive matter energy with antimatter, growing his own power and sphere of influence. He was eventually stopped by sacrifices of several heroes, including the Flash and Supergirl, as well as the merging of multiple universes to save reality by becoming a single unified timeline. Fans have long wondered whether the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths might bring Supergirl and even Black Lightning to Earth 1, where the rest of the series takes place. The crossover will also have guest appearances by Tom Welling as Clark Kent, Erica Durance as Lois Lane, John Wesley Shipp as the Flash of Earth 90, Jonathan Shaich as Jonah Hex, Kevin Conroy as Bruce Wayne, Jesus Christ, and Ashley Scott as the Huntress. I think I saw her on Arrow. So let's see. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Or I thought there was a new Huntress. I don't know. There's so many new characters now. I like DC. I like their TV show, and I think I'd like what I'd watch with what I haven't watched. But God, there's just so much stuff now. It's like you're completely behind if you're like seasons behind. Crisis on Infinite Earths kicks off on Sunday, December 8th on Supergirl, runs through a Monday episode of Batwoman, and that Tuesday's episode of The Flash. That will be the mid-season cliffhanger as the show goes on hiatus for the holidays and returns on January 14th. To finish out the event with the mid-season premiere of Arrow and a special television episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, which launches as a mid-season series this year, and so will not have an episode on the air before the crisis. Very cool. Very cool. A lot of stuff to tackle there in terms of what to watch, how many people are in the damn show. I just want to see Tom Welling as Clark Kent. That's all that I care about. I got to finish Smallville. I haven't finished that. So that'll be cool to watch. That'll be cool to watch. And it makes me want to buy Netflix and catch up on all these shows. I don't know if... I wonder if the CW... I wonder if the CW has Netflix still, or if the CW shows for DC are still on Netflix. I'll have to check that out on my own time, but that's a good question to have, because I want to get Netflix. I want to see the El Camino thing with Breaking Bad. I want to see the Dark Crystal TV show, and I want to see the CW shows if they're on it. Robert Downey Jr. bluntly turns down his own Avengers Oscars campaign. Let's not, quote. That's it. And I agree, just for the record. I think it's he did a good job, but was that even the best performance in Avengers? You know, that's pretty debatable. Disney launched its 2019 For Your Consideration website at the start of October and confirmed it would be campaigning its record-breaking Avengers Endgame in Oscar categories such as Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Visual Effects, Best Costume Design, and more. The Endgame FYC page upset thousands of Marvel movie fans for not featuring an acting bid for Robert Downey Jr., but it turns out the actor has no interest in an awards campaign for his final outing as Tony Stark / Iron Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Downey appeared on the October 7th edition of Howard Stern's Sirius XM talk show, where the radio host expressed frustration with Oscar voters for not taking a superhero movie role like Downey seriously. Because it's a superhero movie, they turn up their nose at it. Their performance is excellent. It's a totally believable character. Oh, okay. I think this is Downey talking next. I'm so glad you brought this up because there was some talk about an Oscar campaign, Downey outed, and I said, let's not. Whether or not Downey removed himself from the running or not remains to be seen, but it's clear the actor has no interest in an Oscar campaign. Downey's reveal will come as sad news to his Iron Man director and Marvel co-star Jon Favreau, who has been advocating for a Downey Oscar nomination since the release of Avengers Endgame in April. I did not know that. He has my vote for sure, Favreau told Variety. I think he was able to discover and explore dimensions of the character over the course of many, many films, which is a bit of its own category. But I have to say that if you look at it, especially how it began and how it ended in his performances between the first one and Endgame, there was a really thoughtful arc to the character, both in his performance and how all the filmmakers contributed to the character. Yeah, but it's just not good enough for the Oscars. I'm sorry. It just doesn't seem good enough, I should say. Maybe if I counted all the performances for Best Actor that I've seen this year, he would be on the list, but that's not saying much. I haven't seen that many movies. While superhero movies broke through in a big way at the Oscars earlier this year with Black Panther, shouldn't have been in Best Picture. They still have struggled when it comes to acting nominations. So what? Michael B. Jordan's performance in Black Panther had strong Oscar buzz for a while, but it did not result in a nomination. And it probably shouldn't have been nominated. Come on. In a year where Joaquin Phoenix's Joker performance is battling it out for a Best Actor nomination, would voters also go for Downey? Are the Oscars accepting enough for two comic book performances to make the cut? The only answer we know for sure is that Downey simply doesn't care. Why should he care? He makes millions of dollars. I think he's definitely been nominated for at least one acting performance. You know, he's at the top of his game, and I think he respects the Academy and the Best Actor nominations enough to where he says, let's not. I don't care. I think he knows that he probably wouldn't win. I can already tell you right now I don't think he should win, because I thought Joaquin Phoenix's performance was 10 times better than his performance. It's not a fair comparison. And, yeah, that's what I think. Clearly, people think, I think that argument of, Joker is going to be nominated, and Joaquin Phoenix will be, so why shouldn't we consider Robert Downey Jr.? And that's a good argument. Well, I'm not saying that he should be excluded because it's just a superhero movie. I'm just saying he's just not good enough. It's just the way it is. I don't even know if he's the best in that movie. He probably is, but I don't know that for sure. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. What else is there to say? Who cares? Not Robert Downey Jr. Finally, this is news that's been rolling around. I'm an MMA fan, so not just a pro wrestling fan, but I'm also a fan of MMA. And this is the final story that I will mention on this show. And this is according to the sun.co.uk. I don't know how valid this is, but I want to really mention that because I don't know this site very well, but I'll go ahead and go with it here and look more into it. Conor McGregor has been ripped after calling for a rematch with Khabib Nurmagomedov by using a gif of the Russian flooring him. The Irish star was beaten by his rival at UFC 229 in October, tapping out in 4 rounds after being floored earlier in the bout. McGregor has now called for a second crack at the unbeaten lightweight champion online, tweeting a gif of himself being dropped by Nurmagomedov on the year anniversary of their title fight. McGregor revealed he wants the rematch in Moscow. He blasted, "Effin' an 8 count, let's dance baby, hashtag 1 year ago, hashtag Moscow, hashtag shit in the bus, hashtag running and shitting at the same time." McGregor's reference to an 8 count given to a boxer when they are floored suggests he was not interested in taking time to recover from the punch in round 2, instead wanting to dance with Nurmagomedov. The Notorious also continues to goad his rival about an incident in 6 months before their fight when the Irishman attacked a UFC bus carrying the Russian and his team and women, who he scared to death by throwing the fucking thing and the bus, smashing the windows, and hurt a fighter in the process, prevented him from fighting that weekend. Why aren't people talking about that? Why isn't he being ripped about that more? And why is his press team still allowed to go to the media day of these fights still a year and a half later? It's just, it's ridiculous. But McGregor, let's see. McGregor insists Nurmagomedov shit in the bus instead of getting out and confronting the ex-champion. I don't know if that meant shit. I don't know. I don't know if that meant shit. The Southpaw's latest Twitter call-out backfired, though, as fans went to town with the trolling. One fan said, "You begged for your life, Conor. You embarrassed your family." Another said, "Of all the gifts, why did you pick that one?" Good point. And one added, "Says the one crawling backwards." A even better point. They're asking me, so to finish off this thing, let's see. Oh, and they showed the tweets now and all that. Yeah, he's getting trashed by fans on Twitter. The once loved Irish star has frustrated fans with his lack of time spent in the octagon since his last win against Eddie Alvarez in 2016, with McGregor winless in over 1,000 days. Run-ins with the law seem to have distracted McGregor from his fighting career, while an injury to his famous left hand halted plans for a UFC comeback this year. That's not what I heard, but the Irish star is still backed by loyal supporters who are begging the KO artist to return more focused than ever. That's the end of the article. So they asked me in this article, in a poll, who would win a rematch out of McGregor and Khabib? Khabib. Khabib, no question. And I don't like Khabib as a fan, particularly because of I don't like his agent. I don't like his fighting style. I just don't like him as a fan. As I kick my table, you know, I like Conor McGregor still. I'm still a fan of Conor somehow, some way. I shouldn't be. I think it's a disgrace what he did, and I don't think he apologized enough for the thing with the bus. That crossed the line. The thing where he punched the old guy at the bar, that crossed the line. And his lack of fighting, those three things, man. I'm really, really frustrated with him as a fan. I'm really frustrated. I'm not against him, but I'm really frustrated. He's pushing his luck a little, and it's unfortunate to see. I didn't like seeing him lose to Khabib so decisively. Apparently, I didn't watch the fight, but everyone says it was decisive. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see this. I don't support this at all. Plain and simple. So, Conor, get your shit together. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that will be the end of my show. Thank you for watching this fine afternoon now, 12:16 Pacific time. I'll be back. I'll be back sometime within this week to do another review, another newsworthy show. Thank you for joining me, man. This has been a blast, and good to finally get some work in. So thanks. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your week, and just keep hammering. Have a good one.